My dear friends, tonight I want to share with you something so simple that the mind may try to dismiss it, and yet so powerful that if you truly practice it, it can change the direction of your entire life. The secret is this: 1 minute of properly directed consciousness can begin the movement of forces that make even the seemingly impossible become possible in your world. 1 minute, not 1 year of struggle, not 10 years of proving yourself, not endless effort, endless searching, endless trying to force life to bend to your will. 1 minute of clear, focused, loving, deeply felt imagination can plant a seed in consciousness that must, in its own appointed way and in its own perfect timing, grow into expression. Now, I want you to hear this carefully. I am not saying that 1 minute is small. I am saying that 1 minute, when entered into completely, when used with your full feeling, your full attention, your full inner conviction, is not small at all. It is a doorway. It is a sacred opening. It is a moment in which you step out of the world of appearances and enter the world of creation. Most people underestimate a single moment because they are hypnotized by time. They think transformation must be long because their suffering has been long. They think healing must be difficult because the diagnosis sounds difficult. They think abundance must be far away because lack has been familiar for so many years. They think love must take forever because loneliness has been with them for so long. But consciousness is not bound by the calendar. The imagination does not operate according to the clock on the wall. The soul does not measure possibility in minutes, months, or years. In the deeper realm of creation, there is only now. There is only the eternal present moment, alive with infinite possibilities, waiting for you to choose the state you are willing to occupy. And this is what I want you to understand tonight. Your desire is not as far away as your senses tell you it is. Your healing is not as distant as fear suggests. Your abundance is not waiting at the end of a long punishment. Your peace is not hiding somewhere in the future. Everything you desire exists first as a state of consciousness. And the moment you enter that state, the moment you feel its reality, the moment you allow yourself to live inwardly as though it is already true, you begin to cooperate with the creative power of the universe. Now, many of you have traveled a long inner road to arrive at this point. Perhaps you have read many books. Perhaps you have listened to many teachers. Perhaps you have tried affirmations, rituals, strategies, systems, methods, and still there is something in your life that seems not to move. And if that is you, I want to say this gently: stop searching outside yourself for the kingdom that has always been within you. The answer is not in another method. The answer is not in another person. The answer is not in waiting for the world to change first. The answer is in learning how to direct your consciousness. The answer is in understanding that your imagination is not a toy of the mind. It is not daydreaming. It is not escape. Properly understood, imagination is the creative faculty of the divine within you. It is the place where you rehearse the reality you are willing to receive. It is the inner workshop where your future is formed. It is the sacred space where the invisible begins its journey toward visibility. When Scripture says, "I am that I am," it is not merely speaking of a distant God somewhere beyond the clouds. It is pointing to the deepest mystery of your own being. Your awareness of being your I am is the point where the finite touches the infinite. Every time you say I am, you are standing at the doorway of creation. And whatever you place after those words becomes a command to consciousness. When you say I am weak, you are not merely describing a condition, you are identifying with it. When you say I am poor, you are not merely reporting a bank balance, you are entering a state. When you say I am unwanted, you are not merely expressing pain, you are giving your consciousness an identity to express. And life, being the mirror that it is, begins to reflect the state you have accepted. But the same law that seems to bind you can also liberate you. If you can say I am sick, you can learn to say I am whole. If you can say I am abandoned, you can learn to say I am loved. If you can say I am struggling, you can learn to say I am supported. If you can say I am not enough, you can learn to say I am one with the infinite source of all sufficiency. And I want to be clear, I am not speaking about empty words. Words alone do not transform life when the heart remains attached to the old state. I am speaking about entering the feeling of the truth you desire to live. That is the 1 minute in which you close the door to the evidence of the senses. 1 minute in which you turn away from the noise of the world. 1 minute in which you stop arguing with your circumstances. 1 minute in which you enter the inner scene that implies your wish has already been fulfilled. Not someday, not perhaps, not if you are lucky. Now, in consciousness, you do not imagine in order to get something from a distance. You imagine because in the realm of consciousness, the thing desired already exists and your task is to assume it. This is one of the great turning points in spiritual understanding. You are not trying to create from nothing. You are selecting from the infinite. You are choosing a state. You are stepping into an identity. You are becoming inwardly familiar with the reality you desire until it feels natural to you. And what becomes natural within you must eventually express itself around you. Let me give you an example. Imagine a man who has been unemployed for a long time. Perhaps he has sent application after application. Perhaps every interview has ended in silence. Perhaps the world around him says there is no opportunity. His bank account is shrinking. His confidence is fading. His family is worried. Every visible fact seems to say nothing is working. Now, if he gives all his attention to those facts, he continues to reproduce the same state. Rejection, fear, lack, uncertainty. But suppose each night before sleep he takes 1 minute, only 1 minute. And in that minute he does not imagine searching for a job. He does not imagine begging for a job. He does not imagine being nervous in an interview. He imagines the end. He imagines already being employed in a position that feels satisfying, useful, and abundant. Perhaps he hears a friend say, "Congratulations, I knew the right position would come." Perhaps he feels the firm handshake of the person who hired him. Perhaps he sees himself depositing a paycheck and feeling deep relief. Perhaps he walks into his workplace with the quiet confidence of someone who belongs there. The details are not the most important thing. The feeling is the feeling of relief, the feeling of naturalness, the feeling of course, this is now my life. And for that 1 minute, he lives there. He does not watch the scene like a movie from far away. He enters it, he inhabits it, he feels it as present fact. That minute becomes a seed. And once a seed is planted in consciousness with feeling, the outer world begins to arrange itself. A conversation happens. A person remembers his name. A company calls. A path opens in a way the rational mind could not have planned. The world may call it coincidence, but the awakened person understands it as law, because imagination, when felt as real, creates the pattern to which life begins to conform. Now, some of you may say, "But Wayne, can 1 minute truly undo years of struggle?" And I would say to you, do not measure the power of consciousness by the length of your problem. A dark room may have been dark for 50 years, but when you turn on the light, the darkness does not need 50 years to leave. A single match, properly struck, can ignite a great fire. A single seed, seemingly small, can grow into a tree that gives shade for generations. And a single minute of concentrated imagination, if it is entered into completely, can begin a new movement in your life. It is not the amount of time that matters most. It is the quality of your attention. It is the depth of your feeling. It is the completeness of your surrender to the reality of the wish fulfilled. Many people spend hours visualizing, but they never leave the state of wanting. They picture something they hope will happen, but underneath the picture is the feeling, "I do not have it." They imagine as beggars outside the gate, not as heirs already welcomed into the house. And so their visualization carries division. One part imagines fulfillment. Another part confirms absence. But in the 1 minute I am speaking of, there is no division. For that minute, you enter the fulfilled state completely. You do not say, "I hope this happens." You feel, "This is real now." You do not say, "Maybe one day." You feel, "I am already the one who has received." You do not try to figure out how. You rest in the end. This is essential. The how is not your burden. The bridge of events that leads from where you are to the fulfillment of your desire belongs to a wisdom far greater than the intellect. The mind can only calculate from what it already knows. But the infinite can move through channels you have never considered. Your task is to select the state. Your task is to feel the end. Your task is to become inwardly one with the fulfilled desire. Then life, through ways seen and unseen, begins to build the bridge. Now, I want to show you how to practice this simply. First, become clear about what you truly desire. Not the struggle, not the problem, not the process. The end? If you desire health, what is the end? It is not fighting illness. It is the natural feeling of vitality, ease, strength, gratitude in the body. If you desire abundance, what is the end? It may not be a number alone. It may be freedom, security, generosity, the ability to move through life without fear. If you desire love, what is the end? It is not chasing someone. It is the feeling of being cherished, understood, accepted, and at peace in connection. If you desire purpose, what is the end? It is the feeling of waking up with meaning, knowing your life is useful, knowing your gifts are being expressed. Clarify the essence. Then create a brief scene that implies the desire is fulfilled. Make it simple. One sentence from a friend, one embrace, one congratulatory moment, one feeling of walking freely, one glance at a statement that shows abundance, one quiet moment of gratitude in your home. Do not make the scene complicated. The subconscious does not need a long movie. It needs a clear impression. Then, preferably before sleep, when the mind is naturally softer and more receptive, take 1 minute. Enter the scene. Be there. Look through your own eyes. Hear what you would hear. Touch what you would touch. Feel what you would feel. Most importantly, allow the emotion of fulfillment to rise within you. Relief, joy, gratitude, peace, naturalness, the feeling that says, yes, this is done. Stay there for that 1 minute as fully as you can. If the mind wanders, do not condemn yourself. Gently return. If doubt speaks, do not wrestle with it. Return to the feeling. If the senses remind you of the old condition, quietly close the door again and return to the inner reality. Then release it. Do not spend the next day digging up the seed. Do not ask every hour, where is it? Why is it not here? Did I do it correctly? A farmer does not plant a seed and then tear open the soil every morning to check whether life is obeying him. He plants. He waters. He trusts. In the same way, you plant the imaginal act in consciousness. You water it with faith. And then you live from the quiet knowing that what has been impressed inwardly must express outwardly in the fullness of time. Now, there is something important about timing. The ego wants deadlines. It says, when will it happen? How long will it take? Can I trust it if I do not see evidence by tomorrow? But faith does not live by deadlines. Faith lives by knowing. There are manifestations that come quickly. There are others that require a reshaping of many conditions. There are desires that arrive through a sequence of events so natural that you may not recognize the miracle until you look back. But the timing is not your concern. Your concern is fidelity to the state. Can you remain loyal to the fulfilled state even when the outer world is still catching up? Can you continue to feel it is done without demanding immediate proof? Can you let the unseen do its work without interrupting it with anxiety? This is the spiritual discipline. And discipline does not mean strain. It means devotion. It means returning again and again to what you know is true in consciousness. Now, some of you may be wondering whether this applies only to small desires. Perhaps you can believe it for a parking space, or a phone call, or a small opportunity. But when it comes to healing, love, financial transformation, or something that the world calls impossible, you hesitate. And I understand. We have been trained to believe in levels of difficulty. We have been taught that some things are easy, some things are hard, and some things are impossible. But that is the language of the rational mind. The infinite does not tremble before the word impossible. The same intelligence that forms a child in the womb, spins galaxies through space, and turns a seed into a forest, is not intimidated by the conditions that frighten your intellect. The limitation is not in the power. The limitation is in the state you are willing to occupy. If you occupy the state of impossibility, life reflects impossibility. If you occupy the state of healing, the body begins to listen. If you occupy the state of abundance, supply begins to move. If you occupy the state of reconciliation, relationships begin to soften. If you occupy the state of freedom, doors begin to open. This does not mean you manipulate other people. It does not mean you violate anyone's will. It means you change your consciousness. And because consciousness is the field in which your experience unfolds, the relationships and circumstances connected to you begin to rearrange around the new assumption. Suppose there is discord in a relationship. Most people try to change the other person. They argue, persuade, pressure, withdraw, punish, complain, or replay the pain endlessly in the mind. But what if for 1 minute before sleep you imagine harmony? What if you heard that person speaking to you with kindness? What if you felt mutual understanding? What if you entered the feeling of peace between you, not as a fantasy, but as a state you are willing to accept? You are not controlling them. You are no longer feeding the old state. You are withdrawing your creative energy from conflict and placing it into harmony. And as you change the inner relationship, the outer relationship has room to change. Sometimes the person changes. Sometimes your response changes. Sometimes a new boundary becomes clear. Sometimes peace comes through reunion. Sometimes peace comes through release. Do not dictate the form. Assume the essence. Assume love. Assume harmony. Assume peace. Let infinite intelligence decide the form that serves the highest good. This is also true for the body. Now, I speak with reverence here. If you are facing illness, do not use this teaching to blame yourself. Blame is not healing. Shame is not spiritual. The body is a sacred companion, and it deserves love, care, wisdom, and compassion. But alongside any practical care you receive, you can also use your 1 minute to enter the state of wholeness. Imagine hearing good news from a doctor. Imagine walking with ease. Imagine breathing freely. Imagine feeling strength return. Imagine saying, "Thank you, God, I feel so alive." Feel the gratitude before the outer evidence appears. Feel the body as loved, supported, and intelligent. Do not fight the illness in imagination. Occupy health. Do not rehearse fear, rehearse vitality. Do not make the condition your identity. Return to the deeper truth. I am life. I am supported by the same intelligence that heals cuts, renews cells, and restores balance in ways beyond my conscious understanding. That feeling, even for 1 minute, is creative. Now again, the rational mind may say this is too simple. Yes, it is simple. But simple does not mean weak. Breathing is simple, but without it, the body cannot live. A seed is simple, but within it is a forest. A word is simple, but it can bless or wound. A minute is simple, but when filled with God consciousness, imagination, feeling, and faith, it becomes a point of creation. The practice is simple because truth is often simple. It is the ego that loves complication. The ego says, there must be more. I must struggle more. I must prove more. I must suffer more. But the soul says, enter the state. The ego says, how will it happen? The soul says, feel it done. The ego says, what if it fails? The soul says, return to faith. The ego says, look at the evidence. The soul says, look within. That is the path. Now, I want to speak about the period after your 1 minute. This is where many people lose the seed. They imagine beautifully for 1 minute, but then spend the next 23 hours and 59 minutes affirming the opposite. They imagine abundance, then speak lack. They imagine healing, then identify with disease. They imagine love, then rehearse rejection. They imagine success, then walk through the day as someone who expects failure. This creates inner conflict. So after your 1 minute, you do not need to force yourself to think about the desire constantly. In fact, sometimes the most faithful thing you can do is let it go. But when the subject comes to mind, return gently to the feeling of fulfillment. Do not say, where is it? Say, it is unfolding. Do not say, why has nothing changed? Say, the roots are growing. Do not say, maybe this does not work. Say, I have planted the seed in consciousness, and consciousness knows how to express itself. Remember the story of the fig tree. The outer change was not immediately visible, but the root had been affected. Many transformations happen first at the root. The visible world is the last layer to reveal what has already shifted invisibly. Trust the root. Trust the unseen. Trust the law. Now, let me say something about action. This teaching does not tell you to sit passively while life passes by. It tells you to act from the fulfilled state rather than from desperation. When you truly assume the wish fulfilled, you may be guided to make a call, send a message, study something, meet someone, rest, apologize, invest, move, wait, speak, or remain silent. But the action will have a different quality. It will not be frantic. It will not be rooted in fear. It will feel guided. It will feel clean. It will feel like the natural next step of someone who already knows the destination is assured. Right consciousness produces right action. When you are in the state, you do not need to force every step. The next step appears, and often the step that appears may not make sense to the rational mind at first. but there will be an inner knowing, a quiet pull, a sense of being led. That is why stillness matters. That is why silence matters. That is why the 1 minute before sleep matters. Because in stillness, you stop shouting at life long enough to hear how life is guiding you. Now, as you practice this, be gentle with yourself. You may not feel perfect conviction the first time. That is all right. You may notice resistance. That is all right. You may discover that the old identity is louder than you expected. That is all right too. Do not turn this practice into another reason to criticize yourself. Simply return. Each night, take your 1 minute. Enter the fulfilled state. Feel it as real. Release it. Live your day with as much trust as you can. And when fear arises, instead of saying, I failed, say, this is my opportunity to remember. The spiritual path is not about never forgetting. It is about remembering more quickly. Each return strengthens the new state. Each moment of feeling fulfilled makes fulfillment more natural. Each sincere, imaginal act deepens your capacity to receive. Over time, the fulfilled state becomes less like something you visit and more like the place where you live. And when a state becomes your dwelling place, the world must reflect it. Now, my dear friends, there is great freedom in this, because it means you no longer have to wait for the world to give you permission. You no longer have to wait for circumstances to improve before you feel peace. You no longer have to wait for evidence before you enter faith. You no longer have to ask the past what the future is allowed to become. You can choose tonight. You can take 1 minute tonight. You can plant a new seed tonight, not with strain, not with fear, not to test the universe, but with the innocence of a child who understands that imagination is sacred. Do not approach this practice by saying, I will see whether it works. That is doubt disguised as experimentation. Approach it by saying, I am entering the creative chamber of consciousness. I am communing with the invisible source from which all form arises. I am accepting for this sacred minute the reality of my fulfilled desire. That attitude changes everything. 1 minute of true feeling is worth more than hours of anxious repetition. 1 minute of union is worth more than days of divided thought. 1 minute of being is worth more than endless trying. So tonight, before you sleep, choose one desire. Make it clear. Make it simple. Create a scene that implies it is done. Enter the scene. Feel it. Let gratitude arise. Let relief fill the body. Let the words thank you move through you, not as a request, but as recognition. Thank you, it is done. Thank you, I am guided. Thank you, I am whole. Thank you, I am supported. Thank you, I am loved. Thank you, I am free. Then sleep in that feeling. Sleep as the person who has received. Sleep not as someone begging, but as someone resting in fulfillment. And when you wake, do not anxiously search for evidence. Simply move through your day with the quiet inner knowledge that something has been planted. The invisible has been impressed. The seed is in the soil. The bridge is being built. The law is working. And when the manifestation comes, it may appear so natural that others call it coincidence. They may say, you were lucky. They may say, what a strange turn of events. They may say, isn't it amazing how things worked out? And you will smile quietly, because you will know that what appeared outwardly began inwardly. You will know that the so-called coincidence was consciousness arranging form. You will know that imagination created reality. And once you know this, not as theory, but through your own experience, you will never again live as a helpless victim of circumstance. You will still honor life. You will still act wisely. You will still be humble. But you will no longer bow before limitation as though it were God. You will know where the power is. The power is in consciousness. The power is in the I am. The power is in your wonderful human imagination when it is used lovingly, faithfully, and consciously. So as we close tonight, remember this. You are not here to fight with shadows. You are not here to beg the mirror to change. You are not here to spend your life reacting to old impressions. You are here to awaken to the creative center within you. You are here to choose your state. You are here to enter the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You are here to plant the seed and trust the law. 1 minute is enough to begin. 1 minute is enough to turn inward. 1 minute is enough to stop worshiping appearances. 1 minute is enough to remember who you are. 1 minute is enough to enter a new state. And a new state, faithfully occupied, is enough to reshape a life. Do not underestimate what can happen when consciousness is focused, feeling is awakened, and faith is present. The impossible is often only the unimagined. The miraculous is often only law understood. And your future is often waiting for the moment you stop agreeing with the old identity and begin living from the new one. Take your 1 minute tonight. Use it wisely. Use it lovingly. Use it with reverence. Enter the scene. Feel the wish fulfilled. Let it become natural. Let it become yours inwardly. Then release it into the hands of the infinite. And go forward knowing that the same power that moves the stars is moving through your consciousness. You are not powerless. You are not forgotten. You are not trapped. Within you is the I am, the creative presence, the divine awareness, the living imagination through which reality is shaped. Use it not with fear, but with love. Use it not to control, but to align. Use it not as a desperate method, but as a sacred remembrance. For when you understand who you are, when you understand that consciousness is creative, when you understand that imagination, felt as real, must express itself, you will begin to live differently. You will stop saying, this is impossible. You will begin saying, this is possible in God. You will stop saying, I do not know how. You will begin saying, the way is being made. You will stop saying, I am waiting. You will begin saying, it is already fulfilled in consciousness, and I now allow it to unfold. This is the promise. As within, so without. As assumed, so expressed. As felt, so formed. As imagined in faith, so manifested in life. Go now with this knowing. Take your 1 minute, plant your seed, trust the unseen, and prepare yourself not for miracles as rare interruptions of life, but for miracles as a natural expression of consciousness aligned with truth. Because the power is yours. The minute is yours. The imagination is yours. The I am is within you. And when you use it consciously, faithfully, and lovingly, even what once seemed impossible can become your living experience.